What's going on, everybody out there? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. This right here, as you all know by now, is the podcast where we dive into the deep, dark, murky waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, Rex Ruger. That's REXXX. You might also know me as a.k.a. the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Hair Metal High Priest, and most importantly, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Search your heart. You know it to be true, and my lawyers are on their way to proving it's true. So we will know very soon, conclusively, that you are looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams. I got 1 million fans. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Hot damn. Whew, I am feeling good. Everybody in the house, including you all out there, are looking good. For me, that's made possible by my favorite product. If I need the quaff like Roth, and I do need it, this is my go-to. Coming to you, as always, from the lush Lavender Lounge of Love, where it all goes down, joined, as always, by my right-hand man, my esteemed colleague, Keith Hernandez Puppet. This is, of course, the No Frills podcast. You don't get no frills because we don't know how to give them to you, and that's the truth. But what we do know how to give you are thrills, and you are looking at them. So you're welcome, as always. We got ourselves a great guest today. You know me. When don't I have great guests? When don't I have legends? And guess what? Surprise. Lo and behold, today is no different. Got a good one. And he's here right now. So let's get into it and chop it up on Pod Scum. Let's get down to business. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Is he there? We will get him. Do we got you, Steve?
I'm getting there.
All right. There he is.
Boom.
Steve Unger, thank you so much for being here, buddy. First of all, man, I got to say, when I'm putting together my bullet points to have you on here, I'm slowly realizing, man, that you are the hardest working man in show business.
One of them.
Well, you know, I want to start I want to start and work backwards a little bit. Obviously, people are going to know you from Metal Church, a phenomenal run there. You're coming up on what? You're getting in the neighborhood of 20 years with that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 20 years. I came in 2003. Yeah.
But I want to start working backwards because the music industry has changed so much. One of the things we talked about offline, when you were kind of, giving me some topical stuff that's going on with you to talk about managing. Now, this band that you're managing, SIN CIRCUS, I went and gave them a listen, first of all. Phenomenal band. But how do you get into the managing end of things? And what's that dichotomy like between being a performer and managing?
Well, the reason I managed SIN CIRCUS is because 2 of the guys in the band are my kids.
Well, that helps.
Yeah. So I just kind of took, they learned how to play at a young age. I mean, they came out of the womb holding guitars and basses.
Yeah.
So, they've always had access to my studio and all my gear. So even at a young age, they were downstairs, rocking on the guitars and beating the shit out of the drums and everything. Yeah. And, as they got older, I just started putting them out, doing live shows and such. And they played so much, they just got really good. And, as far as management goes, I just, I keep them from a lot of the pitfalls and stuff that I've actually fell into, through my career coming up through the ranks. So I just know some of the things to look out for. I know, what you can trust, what you can't trust. And, unfortunately, there's more things you can't trust than you can. So,
sure.
It's just good to have somebody looking out for you. And that's what I do for them.
Is it frustrating or do the kids find it frustrating? Because obviously the musical industry has changed so much, from back in the day with labels and record contracts and album sales. it tough to keep a young band focused and kicked in and motivated, because it is such a hard road nowadays? I mean, it's always been a hard road, but now it seems like the formula is not as exact as it used to be.
Oh, there is no formula anymore, really. I mean, it's all
That's
about,
out the window.
yeah, you just kind of do it because you love to do it. And, if you get lucky and somebody happens to like it, things can happen for you. It is tough to keep anybody focused that's coming up through the ranks, because, yeah, I mean, back in the day, you record 10 songs, you put it on an album, or you go out and you play some shows at the Whiskey or something like that. And, a talent scout would see you and they're like, we're going to make you a star. And they would put all this money behind you. Well, they ain't like that at all. Now, bands have to record their own stuff, bring their finished album to a record label that they're going to be like, oh, stamp our name on it and take 50% of your earnings for doing absolutely nothing other than stamping their name on it and doing the same, going through the same channels that you could do yourself. So it is discouraging. So,
onto the business of Autograph. Now, obviously, last year, their founding member, the great Randy Rand, passed away. How do you get tapped for that gig? Were you previously friends with those guys? How do you link up with the guys in Autograph?
Okay, well, Jimmy Bell, the guitar player, and I did an album together. It was before COVID, so we're talking like, at least 3-4 years ago. And I recorded it. It was supposed to be an album for Killing Machine, and they hired myself and Stet Howland, our drummer from Metal Church, to fly over to France and record this album. And the guitar player that was on the album didn't quite fit the material, so they brought in Jimmy Bell to do the recording of that album, and it came together. And then, of course, nothing's happened yet with the album. But when Randy passed away, this is all the bands are just coming out of this COVID 2-year shutdown thing. And people were lucky if they had gigs on the books, which, Autograph did. And, they just had a brand new album. I mean, unfortunately, Randy didn't get a chance to play not even one time that the stuff is on this album. And it's a great album.
Yeah.
What a thing to leave behind. But, it's a shame that he didn't get to go out and play it himself. But, he passed away right before these dates were coming up. And so Jimmy Bell, knowing that, Steve can play the bass, I don't know if he can sing or not, but so Jimmy called me, and that was the first question he asked was, can you sing, Steve? And I was like, yeah, I can sing. And I knew right then that, where it was going. And then he was like, hey, man, we have all these dates that we got coming up. And, obviously we need a bass player, and we need one that can sing. Are you interested? And I was like, shit, man, I've been an Autograph fan since I was like 15. They were they were the second band I ever saw when I was a kid growing up. Elvis Presley.
So there's a bit of nostalgia there even for you as well. Sure.
Yeah. And, we've crossed paths a few times out on the road. The last time that we crossed paths, and this was before all this went down with Randy passing away, we were playing some place. They were opening up for Metal Church in a place in Ringgold, Wisconsin, I believe. And, we hung out, we met them, and, reconnected, I guess you'd say. And it was kind of funny because we got to the venue before they did, and our dressing rooms were like side by side. Ours said Autograph, or ours said Metal Church, and theirs said Autograph. So I'm kind of a jokester on the road, so I was like, hey guys, let's everybody come over here and Autograph's sign on their door. Everybody. Randy Rand was the only one that thought that was funny. The other guys are, what the fuck is that? Randy thought it was hysterical. But so, anyway, we have crossed paths a few times, and, when I got the phone call to do it, Metal Church wasn't very active. And, I love the music. I love the band. And I knew that Jimmy Bell was great. And I've seen Autograph, when they were opening up for us. And they hold up today as well as they did back in the 80s. And I was blown away because a lot of times you see these bands that are coming back from the 80s, and it's like, man, you guys probably shouldn't have done it. You should have just left your legacy the way it is. But these guys were actually really good. And so when I was on the phone with them, they said, well, I'll give you a list of our set list, and you come down in a couple of weeks. And as I'm on the phone with them, I'm like, I'm booking my ticket now. I'll be there Thursday. And they were like, what the fuck? That's like 2 days away. I'm like, I mean, I already know these songs. The only ones I have
Yeah,
to learn are the new stuff, which
right.
they put out. They put out several new things. Since the changes of the band has happened. So but I know the formula of Autograph, so it was really easy to pick up on the newer stuff.
As a
So,
musician, you just made a good point there with bands holding up over time. When you see bands as a musician yourself, and I'm always eager to get musicians, their take on this topic, and it is still pretty topical online. When you see a band like a Motley Crue or a Kiss, and it's not to impugn these guys' careers or anything, but when they're at this stage of their career and they get accused of like these backing tracks and these little cheats that musicians do, I myself am not a musician, but when you see that kind of stuff, do they get a free pass because of their status, or do you think you should always be seeing the genuine article live?
There's a couple ways to look at it. I mean, if they're claiming that everything is live and then they get busted doing tracks, pulling a Milli Vanilli, then there's suspect, reason to look sideways at them and go like, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah,
But in reality, more bands do it than don't.
yeah,
I mean, especially you look at the pop guys, I mean, the Justin Biebers and the Britney Spears and, people like that. I mean,
right.
I don't even know why they have live guys on the stage, because it's all pre-recorded backing tracks. And, so, I mean, I don't do it. I don't personally like playing the tracks. I guess if you have to, you have to, but,
Okay,
it's not one
fair
of my
enough.
things that I like to do. I've never played in a band that played the tracks.
And you just mentioned COVID. What was that time period like for you when we were hunkered down in quarantine? As a creative person that works in that industry, what was it? How did you use that time? I mean, what was going on when all of a sudden everything shut down? Obviously, it halted a lot of plans. How did you use that time? Were you like a guy who peeled back and rested? Were you writing? Were you creating? What was that period like for you?
Well, I got a side project, original band called One and Done. And we were able to do some writing and do some recording, and I used it for that. And for the most part, I didn't pay much attention to the whole shutdown and the mask mandates and the vaccine. Fuck all that shit, man. I took my band Alive 85, and we just went places and we played places that were not recognizing the crisis that was supposedly going on.
Right.
So
Right.
we went and played Sturgis a couple years in a row. The 2 years of the shutdown, we were in Sturgis playing shows there. We played shows along the way through Idaho and Spokane, Lewiston, Idaho, and on our way out to Sturgis.
Yeah.
So we just kind of focused on places that they were still going. And I mean, it's what I do, man. And you know
Yeah.
what? Never got sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never
I
got
know.
sick.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. And I myself work in the healthcare industry. I am a nurse. That's my day job. And I was just informed at work the other day that any of the vaccine stuff that we have from Moderna, and this came from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, that anything we have from Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, or Pfizer is to be gotten rid of. Apparently, there's a ban on it now. So Lord knows what the hell we've already put into our systems, because now it seems like it's almost like a car being recalled. I mean, so the word is that this stuff is.
I didn't do it.
Yes.
I never get sick. All my life. I mean, I probably had the flu twice in my life. I never get sick. I hardly ever catch colds.
Yeah, my grandfather was like that too. Was never a guy that got sick. Never called into work. Just
it was probably all the hairspray in the 80s and all the after hours chick parties and stuff that I went to.
There was. Yeah.
Build up my immunity, but I just never get sick. So when they were like telling me I gotta put some vaccine in my body, I'm like, man, I'm like a NASCAR driver that's winning races already. And you're trying to tell me to put some new oil additive into my car. I'm like, screw that, man.
They're trying to slow down. They're trying to slow you down. Yeah. So how early on in your life, without getting too much, into your upbringing though, but you certainly have had a very long tenure, as I mentioned, a rock warrior, been, doing this for a long time. How early on did you know that this was going to be your career path? Did you have any aspirations of doing anything else? How early did the music bug bite you?
when I was 6 years old, my parents brought me to see Elvis Presley. Seattle
And that
Center
was it.
Coliseum, 1975. It was the coolest thing I ever seen. I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
And uh, I knew that, going through school and everything, growing up, it's fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, all the way through high school, the teachers are always like, Steve, you're going to grow out of it. You're going to cut your hair and you're going to get a real job like everybody else has to do. And
Yeah.
I was like, I already told you, bitch, I'm going to be a rock star.
Yeah. My course is already set.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing, because I'm here in upstate New York, and I have some friends whose parents actually had Elvis tickets. Before he died, he was supposed to come to Utica, New York about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks after he died. So, I imagine those ticket stubs are probably worth some kind of money. If nothing else, they're very collectible. But we'll get to the Elvis stuff without a doubt, because I certainly want to talk about that. But do you remember, like, specifically, though, you see Elvis, was he your only influence, or did you have other influences, particularly on your instrument of choice?
Well, let's see here. I grew up with Elvis. That's what we listened to in the house. That's what my parents listened to. So that was like my first influence into music. And then, of course, I saw him live and I was just blown away. And then as I got, a few years later, I got into Kiss, and, they became like my favorite rock and roll band. And when I seen him live, I was like, oh, shit, that's it. Yeah. When I opened up that Kiss Alive 2 record, and the stage was on fire, and I was like,
yeah. It's so funny to hear you say that, because it seems like Kiss is everybody's gateway. I've done 100+ of these interviews, and that is the go-to answer for a lot of people. It's just crazy how many doors that Kiss opened for people.
Oh yeah. I mean, bedroom walls used to be nothing but Playboy centerfolds and Kiss posters everywhere when I was a kid growing up.
I mean, it's really mind-blowing, to think of of how they've been panned by critics so much, but yet they've influenced so many musicians. And because I don't know if the industry looks at them because of the makeup, because of the theatrics, as some kind of a farce. I feel like even though they've been that influence, they've never really gotten their just due as far as like from like the rock world.
I agree.
It's kind of sad.
Even though they're throwing in the towel here, or supposedly throwing in the towel here, they've been my favorite band since I was like, 6 or 7 years old. So it kind of hurts the soul when people are bagging on them and stuff. And it's like, people love to hate, man. That's the problem with this world today, is people love to hate. And it's like, this band has brought 40, 50 years of great memories and great music to everybody that wanted to be a part of it, and then they get busted when they're in their they're in their 70s now, right? So it's like, of course they're not going to be able to do the things that they used to do when they were 40 and 30, right? So they get busted using backing tracks, okay, big deal. I mean, it's still a Kiss show, it's still a Kiss concert, they're still doing it.
And I think you hit the nail on the head right there. And because you can't replicate what you did in the past, you are coming more. You should be coming more with the presumption that you're seeing a Kiss performance. They're trying to come and give you a performance. They know they can't do what they did when they were in their 20s, but they're still putting on a show for you, though, which is always one of the things that I love the most about Elvis, to veer in that direction, that you don't really see a lot in music anymore, though, is with Elvis, it was more than just the songs. It was the pageantry, it was the costumes, it was the jumpsuits, it was the jewelry. Like, you really got the full performance from Elvis. You don't see a lot of people getting up on a stage right now, but you don't see a lot of just pure showmanship and performers anymore.
Right. It's well, when we went through the 90s, man, that was a tough time, because the whole idea of a show kind of went to the wayside. When bands would come, they'd get on stage looking like they just got off working at the corner garage, and they're all greasy and like they took a shower for 3 or 4 fucking days, and they looked all depressed looking at their shoes, and nobody moved. I actually took a couple years off during that time. I was just like, man, I come from the school that rock and roll is fun and party and fast cars and chicks and sex and rock and roll, and when they were singing about how bad they hate their parents, and I'm so depressed, and it was a depressing time for me, man. So I actually had to disengage and unplug for a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk about this Alive 85. Tell me the concept behind it. Obviously, you've spoken in glowing terms about Elvis and what his music and the imprint that it left on you. But so explain to people like what the theory is behind this. So this is as if we pulled Elvis into a more modern time.
Yes. So my show, The King Alive 85, starts on August 17th, 1977, the day after he died.
Okay.
So the whole idea is that he didn't die. So we start the show with this video where we've recreated an ambulance scene where they're working on him and the doctors are hitting him with shockers and such. And so the show starts with, they saved him from his heart attack. And, then it goes into the next scene where you see the Elvis arm, like lifting weights and working out and in the back doing sit-ups and shit, getting himself into shape, throwing ice cream in the garbage and taking pills and throwing them in the garbage. And, it's just, the calendar goes tick, 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 until it gets to 1985. And now he's ready to come back and start rocking again. And then lights go down and I come running out. And so the idea is he made it through his heart attack. He's back, and now he's in competition with the likes of the bands we're talking about: Kiss, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Whitesnake, Poison. Yeah. So, what did he do his entire career? He always took other people's music, did it his own little way, and then made it that much cooler. And then and people now know those songs, that those are Elvis songs. They have no idea that he took them from somebody else. Right. But that's what he did. So if he would have lived in the 80s, he would have probably kept doing the exact same thing. So that's what this show is all about, is if he would have lived in the 80s, what would his show be like? And I never wanted to be like an Elvis impersonator, and that's not what this show is about, because you can't impersonate somebody that died on this date. It's a hypothetical. If he would have lived, it's a thing. And I've seen 100,000 of these Elvis impersonators, and some are really good and some are really bad. And I just, I didn't want to be the exact same kind of thing, but at the same time, I wanted to do something to pay homage and honor the king of rock and roll, who's the reason that I am what I am today. And so, the
National Enquirer has reported several times that he is not dead. So, sort of tongue in cheek, that does add kind of a plausibility to what you do, though, because it always has kind of been a running farce where people have sworn that they've seen him, and he's here, he's there, he's going into the 7-Eleven in some little podunk town, or somebody thought that they saw some guy with mutton chops and hair, and he is still alive. So it just goes to show, though, that, the impact he really had on culture, though, because, you can't really think of too many celebrities. We've all lost people, who we've admired from afar and been a fan of. But, you really feel that wanting and that yearning from his fans, that they really, truly want to believe that.
Right.
It's quite amazing. Yeah. I mean,
it would be great if he was still alive, And, me personally, I wouldn't blame him for ducking out, man. I mean, the guy couldn't even go to the movie theater without, putting security there and renting out the whole damn place, for him and his guys to go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Kiss had it smart, man. They put the face paint on, and they used to be able to walk around, nobody even knew who the hell they were.
Right.
Like Elvis, man, he couldn't even go to the grocery store.
And I've got Elvis featured properly here behind me, in particular, because I a lot like you, that my first foray into music was this Elvis Aloha from Hawaii concert, which was on 8-track that my grandmother had. And that was when they were putting like a satellite up in the sky. I mean, they couldn't do the things that they did now, but it was a very big deal. And it wasn't until years later that I actually got to see it, a video version of it. I just used to hear this guy's voice and hear these songs. But even then, I mean, it was 1973, so it was in the later years of his life. But the girls are still putting lays on him and screaming and giggling and squealing with joy. I mean, the guy just really transcended. Just he's more than just a musician to me.
Yeah, well, he had a movie career that spanned like 10 years. So the guy did a lot, man. I mean, in 42 years of life, geez, he left quite a trail.
But this is obviously something, though, that, to go out and fully realize a band and fully realize this concept, it really speaks volumes as to the impact that he's had on you. Because you could certainly, you have all these musical endeavors to do. Were you worried at all about any kind of a pushback where, as you mentioned, there are a lot of Elvis impersonators out there, some good, some bad. Were you interested or were you worried at all about any kind of blowback from fans who would be like, what the hell is Steve doing this for?
Not really.
No.
I mean, people can think whatever the hell they want to think.
Man. I love it personally.
I'm living my life, man. So, and I'm enjoying it, and nobody comes to the shows and leaves disappointed. So,
yeah, I have seen rave reviews on there. So when you're putting the show on, obviously people know you as a bass player, but you are fronting this band and singing the songs, and somebody else is playing bass. You have a fully realized band around you.
Oh yeah, I've got actually the most of the band behind me is SIN CIRCUS.
Okay.
Yeah. So
these are guys that are. So these are your boys. These are guys that are also raised with a little bit of Elvis influence in their life.
Yep. And when they started, when I first put this thing together about 5 years ago, they were like, I don't know, Dad, this is going to be kind of strange, but let's do it, And what I told them is, when they started learning the songs, especially my youngest Derek on the bass, he was like, man, these bass parts, they don't really make sense. And if you were to take a bass part out of an Elvis song, just listen to it, it really doesn't make sense, because even though the bass is the biggest part of the song, it's not like an actual bass part, like per se what you listen to today. I mean, Detroit Rock City,
Right.
It's repetitive, and it just fills up the space. But in the Elvis stuff, it's a completely different mindset how you come up with this stuff. And I just explained to my son, I go, if you learn this, it's going to open up a whole nother area in your brain. So when you're writing your next SIN CIRCUS stuff, you're going to come up with ideas, and you're not even going to know where the hell those ideas came from. And I'm telling you, because you're learning how to do something different, it's only going to expand your musical capabilities.
And prior to the show, rather than a deli tray back in the green room, are there fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches?
No, there's usually my goodie bag that I bring myself.
Okay, so we're not completely emulating Elvis then all the way.
No. I don't know. Okay. I don't want to end the same way.
So talk to me a little bit more about SIN CIRCUS, because these are your boys or whatever. Give a shout out to people about what they can expect from this band. What genre, what style of music do they play? What do they, as their manager, what do they have coming up? Anything on the horizon for them?
They've got a few things coming up later in the summer. They've taken a little bit of time off, and they're just kind of brushing off the dust coming out of the COVID thing themselves. They did record a new album, and it was supposed to be released it was supposed to be released right when the COVID thing hit, and we held on because we didn't know, was it going to be 2 weeks, was it going to be 2 months?
Right.
Who the fuck had any idea it was going to be 2 years, right?
Right.
So they have a brand new album that's still in the can that has not been released, but they've since then wrote another new album. So they're going to have material coming out here. I don't know if you saw the videos or not, but they did 4 releases off the songs that are off the album that has not yet been released.
Yeah.
I'm a God. What's the other one? Sign Your Name. I don't know if you saw that one. That's like a wicked song, man. But anyway, so they, just to keep the name out there and in the limelight and let people know that there's still a band, they started putting out the videos, and they did them like every 5 or 6 months. So all through that COVID time, it still appeared as the band was active, and they went with me when the Live 85 show played, like in Sturgis and in Idaho and in Spokane. They went with me, and they played not obviously not at the same time, but
right.
a couple hours in between each other or different days. And so they were active all the way through the COVID thing too. But right now, I expect the next thing is going to happen is there will be another video that's going to be dropping here pretty soon. And then you're going to hear a lot of news about them.
And what kind of, as a young band, it seems like, whether you want it to happen or not, it always seems like, a band comes up and they're instantly either pigeonholed into a genre, or they're compared to other bands. What are people saying about them? Do they sound like somebody in particular? Are they drawing comparisons?
They are not, and it's really hard. I mean, if you listen to them, I don't know. Did you? Oh, geez, sorry about that. Had a phone
That's all
call
right.
coming in. Uh, I mean, what did you think when you saw the video? Did they remind you of anybody?
They didn't. No, they really had their own thing. It's certainly a very robust, heavy, type of power metal, though. I mean, I love what they're doing, and I don't really like to ascribe to that. I mean, I think everybody's out there doing their own thing, and I think people want to be recognized for doing their own thing. And I think a lot of what you said is correct. It seems like when you go on YouTube and people put up videos, I'm kind of one of those people that's from the school of, if it's not my cup of tea, I would just move on, and I don't feel like utilizing my time to leave a negative comment and run somebody down for putting their art out there. But it looks like the reception to them is great. I looked on their Facebook page. I mean, 14,000 followers already. That's pretty damn good. That's got to make you happy.
Mm-hmm. Out there, I mean, if you see Sin Circus, you're probably gonna like the band, and you know they got a little bit of everything. They're not just all heavy, they're not just all light love songs or anything like that, but they people ask all the time, well, who do you compare them to? And if I had to put some kind of comparison on them, I would say if Motley Crue and Avenged Sevenfold somehow had a love child, it would be Sin Circus.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Now, I would certainly second that. And now that you bring that comparison up, thinking to the stuff that I've heard, as their manager though, and their father, does that line ever get blurry? Like sometimes, like where you want to just, obviously these are your kids, you want to do a lot for them from a managerial standpoint, but does it ever get tough kind of balancing that juggling act, or does it go pretty smoothly? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you are their father, but then, there's certainly the expectation that you want to help catapult them to the next level.
Right. Well, I mean, they self-manage themselves a lot. I mean, I only help them with, I'm not like, the one and only guy that takes care of Sin Circus. Yeah. Basically, they run everything past me, and I give them my opinion on it, and I help them. And when we decide that that's the way we're all going to go, well, then I'm going to do everything in my power to help them get to that point. Whether it's shows, whether it's a label, whether it is, shit, when they would go out on tour, I would go out with them and I would be their like tour manager and their roadie and their tour bus driver. So I was the guy that was wearing like 5 different hats, and, I do it again, but I'm pretty busy myself these days.
Is it frustrating sometimes from a standpoint, though, because you saw a very different musical landscape, when you were coming up, as opposed to what these young bands have to go through now? I mean, like, like how much input do they ask from you as somebody that's gone through this a lot? Like, do they have, are they coming to you for a lot of feedback and a lot of advice?
They grew up with me, and they actually would go out on tour with me. When I was with Metal Church, we were out on the American Metal Blast tour, and I brought them out on the tour bus with us on the road for a couple weeks at a time, and then I'd fly them back home. So they got to experience it themselves at a young age and see what it's all about. You have to fly in and do a date and then get rushed to the hotel so you can get ready, and then go back so you can do a sound check, and then it's a hurry up and wait, because now you got to wait for the headlining band to finish their sound check, and you can't do anything until they're done. And of course they take 2 hours longer than they're supposed to, so you're sitting around and now you got 30 minutes to throw your shit up on stage, do a quick sound check, and then start your show. I trained them while they were out with me, so they got to see it firsthand. It's not like I'm looking down my nose going, you guys need to do this, you need to do this. They just grew up around it, and they've seen how it works.
That's literally on the job training right there. Yeah, baptism by fire.
Absolutely, it is. It absolutely is. And I mean, for instance, I've seen opening bands, where they finish their set, and it's like, dude, get your shit off the stage. Don't sit there and take your cymbals off the stands and put them away one by time, and hand one drum at a time, and just put your guitar. You got to have like 5 guys in a crew go out there and grab your shit, throw it off the side of the stage, and then put it away. Things like that. That's what they learn from a young age. So anytime I've thrown them out with people that I know, I'm like, hey man, I got an opening act for you, blah blah blah. They're like, hey, cool man, we'd love to have them out. they do that. They do what they do. They go out there, seen, not heard until it's their time on the stage. Then they blow the place up, and then bam, their shit and them is off to the side and gone. A lot of bands, they don't have that kind of professionalism. They're the longer they stand around on stage, the more they think they're getting recognition. I don't know, but that's not the way it works, man. Get your shit and get off.
As somebody who's seen so much in the business, in your travels, like touring around, in the various projects that you do, is there ever a point in time where you yourself ever get, for lack of a better word, starstruck? I mean, you've probably brushed up against a lot of great people. Is there that one person that was really like that's really left an indelible memory, like where you're like, wow, I can't believe I just met him?
Probably Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've had some of these posters on your wall since you were 5, 6 years old, and I've seen Kiss like 50 something times. I've met him. I've met him several times. I mean, it's not like it's my first time meeting him, but still, I mean, there's just like Paul Stanley. Even though he's a really nice person, he has this like huge aura about him where it's just kind of just being him. He blows you away. Just standing in a room. He doesn't even have to be doing anything. He just has that hugeness about him, and so I would say Paul Stanley's probably the biggest starstruck I've ever been.
Another great thing about Kiss, though, I mean, say what you want about that, man, but but as far as a branding and marketing standpoint, nobody holds a candle to those guys. I mean, like, you literally for a while there could get, the Kiss logo on anything, including a fucking coffin, for God's sakes. I mean, you could get just about anything. I mean, they had comic books, action figures. I mean, they really branded themselves. Huh?
I have most of it. People walk into my house and they're like, "Dude has issues." I got my entire house is Kiss and Elvis, and there's everything: pinball machines, and I mean everything.
Has there been a trip? And this is probably a dumb question, but I'm assuming the answer to this is yes. But has Steve Unger paid a visit to Graceland?
Oh yeah. I did actually during the COVID time. That was one of the things I did. Is my girlfriend and I, we took a ride from North Carolina, where her mom was at, and her mom was not well, so we went out and spent some weeks out there. And she gave us her car, and we just blew off our plane tickets home. So instead of flying back home and then jumping in the bus with the guys from SIN CIRCUS, we were on our way to go play Sturgis. SIN CIRCUS drove from Seattle to Sturgis, and I drove from North Carolina to Sturgis, and which is basically about the center point, right?
Yeah.
And along the way, I made it a point. We left a couple days early so we could go see Tupelo, his little house where he was born. And then the next day we went to Graceland, and man, walking in the doors, just standing in the footsteps where he was at, it just like kind of gave me chills, And I actually got to hold his badge.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that standard? Is that standard practice? Do they let most people that come through the door get to do that?
I got a VIP package, and
okay.
They brought us into some places that you don't get to see, and we got to actually hold a few things. I got to put on his sunglasses and shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty amazing, man.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Metal Church, I said I wanted to work backwards here. So Metal Church, obviously, new album coming up very shortly here, right at the end of the month. Let me get the name right. Congregation of Annihilation. I've heard the first single off it. Standard. You know what you're going to get with Metal Church. They never let the fans down. It's always pedal to the metal. Metal Church style rock and roll. I like that a lot. The consistency in music, because I do see a lot of times, and I just discussed this with somebody the other day. It seems like either you're getting blowback from fans because you're staying consistent and sounding the same, or you're getting blowback for tweaking or changing your sound. So it's almost like bringing back to the criticism thing. You're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
You can't win all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you try to make everybody happy. You're not going to make everybody happy. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to make yourself happy.
Yeah.
And, hopefully enough people will believe and love what you're doing that makes you happy. And, that's how it lasts, because if you like it and if you're having fun, they should be having fun.
And what was your, I know it's been a long time, but what was your, what was your foray into Metal Church? How did you come into the fold there? Because obviously, when you came in 2003, they had already had a pretty massive run. I mean, they've been going since the early '80s, right? So they probably are, they were already 20 years deep then. First and foremost, were you a fan?
Not really, no. I was always more of a White Snake, Motley Crue, Y&T, kind of the '80s rock stuff, and not so much on the metal side of things. Actually, when I got the call to come audition for Metal Church, I was actually fronting a country band, if you can believe it or not.
Really?
Because that was at the time when rock and roll was just like, I told you I unplugged and I took like a couple of years, 2-3 years off. I was just like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna do this. And at that time, country, the new stuff of country was coming out. It was kind of like what '80s rock used to be. Not like the Pretty Boy rock, but like 38 Special. I mean,
right.
Country kind of turned into 38 Special, but with some country lyrics to it,
Right.
And I was like, that I can do, because I've always been a country fan. I mean, started with Elvis, and I've always listened to country. So it's a lot of people don't. They're like, what the hell, man? This guy plays country, plays Elvis.
Yeah.
What don't you do? And it's just like, hey, I have a wide variety, a taste of different music.
Sure.
I mean, if I'm out on the Sound floating in my boat on a nice summer day when I'm not on tour, am I going to put Slayer on? Hell no. I'm going to put on some Little River Band and kick back and throw a beer back and toss a pole in the water, and just relax and enjoy myself. A lot of people would come out on the boat with me and they're like, what? You're not going to turn on Raining Blood or something? I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to. Well, I throw some Metal Church on. I'm like, fuck that, man. I hear that enough,
So you auditioned for these guys, and I imagine you had to learn, some of their material. Was this a gig that you, I know it's some years ago, but is this a gig that you really had to vie for quite competitively, or were there not a lot of people with throwing their hat in the ring?
I'm not sure how many people had the hat in the ring, but I do know that, the way it all came about was Ronnie Monroe, who was the singer, him and I basically joined the band the same day. Metal Church was defunct for quite a few years before 2003, that's when we decided they wanted to resurrect it, and we joined and we rebuilt it. So in that time frame, before Church was even back together again, Ronnie and I had a band. It was a lot like Steel Panther, but this was like before Steel Panther, and I think we just did it too soon. But it was called Glam Slam, and it was, the drop curtains and bombs going off, and the spandex clothes and the headbands and all kind of shit. I mean, we did the over the top, 80s show where we bring a concert setup into a large club venue, and people would just be like, what is going on here? So I quit that band after a while because I decided, I want to do this country thing. And Ronnie kept going with the band, but he renamed it Metal Gods, and he kind of went a little bit heavier with it. And he had a guy named Charlie, was the bass player from a band called the Aphrodisiacs. He was playing bass for Ronnie's Metal Gods. And he had a gig in Vegas with the Aphrodisiacs on the same day that they had a show here locally where I live. And so Ronnie called me up and he asked me if I would, come in, if I could remember the songs. And I'm like, I grew up on those songs. Yes, I could play those songs in my sleep. So I went in and filled in. And the night that I filled in with Ronnie happened to be the night that the Metal Church gang came out to see Ronnie Monroe, because somebody said that Ronnie Monroe might be a good fit for Metal Church. And so they saw, Ronnie doing his thing, and they liked him, and they approached him, and he went out the next day to go, meet the band and, audition, a little further. And he called me when he was there, because they asked, hey, what about that bass player that was playing with you last night, man? What's he doing? And so Ronnie called me, and they said that they're interested in having you come and audition. So they sent me a couple songs, and a couple days later I went there, and we got through. They sent me like 3 or 4 songs to learn, and we got halfway through the first song, And I'll never forget it. Kurt Vanderhoof takes his guitar off and he sets it down and he walks out of the studio. I was like, oh, shit, that didn't go really well. And Kirk Arrington, he's the original drummer. He got up and followed Kurt outside. And, me and Ronnie are looking at each other like,
we got this in the bag or don't we?
yeah. So they both come walking back in and they're like, the gig's yours if you want it. And I was like, shit, I'm playing half a song. And so, of course, I was like, how do you say no to an opportunity like that?
Right,
I mean, I had my reservations because I was in that country band and we were actually doing pretty good. We were making videos. We were out touring like the fair circuits and stuff like that. We were doing all right. And, it was on its way up. But when I got the offer to play bass for Metal Church, I'm like, man, these guys are already doing what I want to be doing. All I got to do is learn this stuff and, be their bass player. Yeah. And so, one of the things that I've learned in life is it's better to not say no to stuff. If you say yes and you just try shit, it opens up so many doors.
Sure.
Every time you do something, you meet a whole new group of people, which, it's just kind of like a family tree,
Yeah.
And so I walked in and I said, yeah, I want to do it. And, next thing I know, we're in recording the Weight of the World album. And, things just blew up, man. I was out on tour in Europe with Metal Church and I, doing exactly what I wanted to do. And, it's not that just because I wasn't a fan of Metal Church doesn't mean that I didn't like their music. It just wasn't what I chose at that time to listen to. So, once I got into it and started playing it, now I'm actually creating some bass lines for the Metal Church album. I'm like, man, this is now has my influence in it as well.
Right.
And which was very cool because Kurt Vanderhoof, he basically writes the songs. The main riff and kind of where he wants to go with the song. And then he basically turns it over and says, do what you would do to it. So I had the freedom from day one to play my own bass line. And so
that's nice. So that's nice. So he opens that door and allows people to have creative input then, because obviously you're speaking of Kurt Vanderhoof. Obviously he is, the only, the only sole member, founding member of that band. So he does open up that door to you guys, because I was going to ask about what the creative process in Metal Church is. So he does allow some collaboration then.
The door is wide open. If you do something and he hates it, he'll tell you.
Yeah. After all these years, he should be able to at least be. Yeah, he certainly knows what he wants Metal Church to sound like. That brings me to my next point. So now, and I don't want to mispronounce his name. Is it Mark Lopes or Lopez? But Metal Church does have a new lead singer.
Mark Lopes, yes.
Mark Lopes. And what is your feeling on what he has added to the band? Because I know, obviously, when people hear new lead singer, that instantly, especially for longtime fans, that always stirs up shit and comparisons to past singers and everything. So what is he bringing to the table of Metal Church that you think fans will like?
Well, I should probably rewind a little bit before that then, because, unfortunately, our singer, Mike Howe, he committed suicide and, we had no choice. I mean, it's not like we fired him or he quit the band.
Right.
He made a choice and he left us sitting here wondering what we were going to do. Yep. And after the dust settled, I mean, that was a big blow, man. You don't, when he's your friend and your bandmate, and you've, spent months together in tour buses and you've flown on planes back and forth to Europe dozens of times. And, you get to know each other's families and everything. And it's when something like this happens, man, it just really, it blows you away. And it took us a couple of years to just even think about what we're going to do. But then we started talking and we just decided that this can't be the way the Metal Church ends. We can't let Mike's choice be the reason Metal Church ends.
Right.
So we, Kurt had already started writing some songs and stuff because that's just what he does. And we needed to find somebody that would fit the band. And there was a couple guys that, were in the running. And I suggested Mark Lopes to Kurt. And he goes, you mean the guy from Ross the Boss? And I was like, yeah. and we played many festivals that Ross the Boss was also on the festival. So, Kurt had known what Mark is capable of doing. And so I put him in touch. They got together, and the next thing you know, he started doing scratch vocal tracks, and things just kind of just went perfectly. And Mark is he's so energetic. What I think he's going to bring to the band is kind of a breath of fresh air, a new energy of the band. I mean, Mike was a great singer, and people loved Mike Howe. I loved Mike Howe. We miss him, but we can't bring him back, man. And we can't let that be why we end. So bringing in Mark, he can sing the Mike Howe stuff. He can sing the Ronnie Monroe stuff. He can sing the David Wayne stuff. Somehow he still has his own flavor. It's still him singing that doesn't sound like the other three.
Yeah.
But he's got this voice that can cover everything and then some. And when he does his high screams and everything, it's like, holy crap, man. Whereas other people do those same kind of screams and it just screams 1986. It's already been done. Yep. Somehow Mark has a way of doing these screams that it sounds like today.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what he's doing, how he's doing, but he's doing it. And I think he's going to bring a whole new fire on stage, especially because he's a lot more energetic than say Mike was.
Sure,
Mike was kind of, he jumped around the stage and he did all his yoga stretches and things like that on stage, and he had his own thing going on. But Mark is kind of just a ball of energy, and of course he's got arms this big. So I always want to be on his good side. That's for sure.
He's bringing youthful exuberance and high energy to you guys, and that's always a good thing in a rock show. I mean. Now, a couple more things before I let you go on Elvis. When you look back on Elvis's career as a fan, because I'm such a huge fan too, and were there ever any parts of Elvis's career that you thought were hiccups or where he made a wrong turn? Obviously, a lot of people were critical of his movies. He certainly wasn't doing anything that was Academy Award winning type shit. The Elvis movies were what they were, but but were there any steps? A lot of people, he put out a lot of gospel albums. I mean, he really had a fantastic voice, but are there any things that you think were a misstep in Elvis's career? Were there things as a fan that you look at and be like, he could have done without that part of his career?
I really don't think so, because his career was him. He's the one that made choices to do that. I mean, if you love something and you appreciate what somebody is doing, you got to accept everything that they do. I mean, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to like it. Like, I'm not a big fan of the gospel stuff. Not that I'm, saying this or anything like that, but it's just, I got my own thing going with the guy upstairs,
Yeah.
I don't need to sing about it and, write songs and, He's so great. Oh, praise the God. I'm just not into that myself. But he was a very religious and spiritual person. So for him, that was a part of his career that he wanted to do. And some people liked it and some people didn't. Just like you said earlier, if you don't like something, just skip on past it and pull back the album that you do love,
Right.
And, as far as his movies, I mean, the movies had a lot to do with making Elvis who he was, even
Absolutely.
though, there was a lot of cheesy stuff. I mean, he played basically the same role in every movie, guy with guitar, races race car, gets the chick, beats up the guy that wanted a chick, gets up, sings a song. I mean, it was basically the same formula over and over again. And I think that he probably could have been a better actor if he would have, if somebody wouldn't have just pigeonholed him into that role, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know what? That was the times. I mean, you look at any of the other movies that were coming out, and they were just as cheesy.
A lot of cheesy stuff. Yeah, a lot of cheesy stuff. And now, obviously, he had a very polarizing career, and a lot has been made about the loyalty or lack thereof of some of the people in his inner circle. A lot of those Memphis Mafia guys went on to write, tell-all books. Giving us a glimpse behind stuff that maybe the Presley estate would or would not have wanted us to know. How How much of that do you think really affected Elvis? Because obviously, he tried to maintain some, some level of privacy, even though he was the biggest star, in the world. I mean, he transcended, one region. I mean, he was international. I mean, he was really that first guy that you could just really just say his first name and just, and even to this day. But, obviously, a lot of these guys came out and they wrote books, and it's a shame because he really sounded like he was really generous to all these people that were in his inner circle. Do you think any of that, it all tarnished his legacy? Any of these books that were made?
I don't know that it tarnished his legacy because, I mean, listen, we all have things that we've done in our lives that,
Right.
I call them learning experiences, but
Yeah.
some people bust your balls and tell you what a jackass you are for doing it. And,
Right.
Oh, he did this, he did that, he did drugs, he banged a bunch of chicks. I mean, there's some people are going to look at that and go, wow, that's killer. He did drugs and banged chicks. And other people are going to be like, oh my God, he's gross, So it doesn't really matter what you do, man. But I do think that Elvis personally took it very personal, that the people that he let close to him in his inner circle, his Memphis Mafia, I think that probably had a lot to do with him, continuing and diving deeper into the drugs that he did and gaining all the weight because, man, depression is a bitch.
Yeah, especially you got these guys, and then you got, of course, the Colonel cracking the whip and putting him under a lot of stress and taking a big portion of his money. Elvis really didn't have it as easy as people think. I think people just look and just say, wow, he's this international star. What a charmed, fantastic life, but a lot of pain there.
Yeah, no, a lot of people got rich off of Elvis, especially the Colonel.
And now,
I don't know if you've seen the new movie that Austin Butler guy did.
Yeah, I was going to ask what your thoughts on it were.
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, the only bad thing that I've heard about that movie that didn't affect me in any way was, there was hip hop and rap music in between some of the scenes. And I'm like, well, that's just him or their way of admitting that, a lot of Elvis's style came from the black music and the black community. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, all of us take a little bit of everybody that we looked up to, or we and that's what makes us us. I mean, me, I'm Elvis and Kiss and Motley Crue and all the bands that I used to look up to. I mean, you can't pinpoint me as one of them, but if you were to unravel this ball that's me, you might find layers of Elvis and Kiss and all the things. And it can't be any different. Why would it be any different for the king of rock and roll? I mean, he was influenced by, what was it? Chubby Checker was a huge influence on him, Fats Domino and Chuck Berry, all these guys. And it's not his fault that the time that he came out, people were more willing to listen to a white guy sing than a black guy. It's unfortunate, but that was the time. And Elvis was just this good looking guy that sang, had a great voice, moved all over the place he was shaking and moving everywhere, so much that they couldn't even let him on TV half the time.
Crazy.
From the waist up, So I don't know, man. I just think that he picked and he chose things that he made him. Yeah. And it kind of sucks that people have to look at it that way and oh, well, he ripped off this person. It's like just taking an idea from somebody and doing it your own way is not ripping off anybody, you know? And it's not like they didn't get credit on the album that he recorded, and they probably made more money off of Elvis doing their song than they ever made, a lot of them.
How authentic when you go out and do the Alive 85? Now, I've seen video footage. I've seen what you do. You are out there in the jumpsuit. Obviously being a fan or whatever, I mean, I obviously you knew a lot about his career. You know a lot about his demeanor on stage. You obviously know the songs or whatever. But when you're gonna go out and fully realize this band, is there any kind of studying that goes into this? Geez, I want to get some of the moves right. I want to get the way he holds the microphone. I want to get the nuances in the songs. How much of Elvis do you really study before you undertake a band like this?
Well, I didn't really study anything because my entire life has been studying Elvis. I just grew the same thing with my kids. Why they, SIN CIRCUS, they just work because it's just natural. I mean, that's that was my influence. I mean, that's what I watched, and I watched the movies, and I watched his concert, and I actually seen him in concert. And so I didn't do I sit there in front of the TV and try to mock his moves and stuff? Absolutely not. I just like we just got done talking about the layers of all the people that make you you. He's just kind of in me,
He's ingrained in you. Yeah, there's a part of him that's in the fiber of you.
There. Yeah. So I mean, even when I'm on stage with Metal Church or Autograph or whoever I'm on stage with, I mean, you could probably, if somebody like stared at me long enough, they'd be like, look at him shaking his fucking leg right there, man. Yeah, that's an Elvis move, and I'm not even thinking that I'm doing it, but I'm doing it.
And obviously Elvis had just a plethora of just phenomenal songs. I mean, well over, 25, 30 just number one hits. So how do you streamline it down and figure out a set list? Is this something that, in your mind you just think, geez, these are probably the most popular songs that people want to hear? Because obviously you could bang your head against a wall trying to come up with a set list of all the great Elvis songs.
Well, I put together the set list based on how the songs affected me when I was growing up and became my favorite songs. Because I'm the one delivering them.
Right.
If I love the song, the delivery is going to be a whole lot better than if it's just, well, this song was a hit and people like it, so I'm going to sing it.
Right.
I mean, when I'm doing the Live 85 show, it is genuine and sincere. And, I sound a lot like Elvis.
Yes, you do.
And, it's just me being me and doing a show that pays homage to the king of rock and roll, man. So the songs that I chose are songs that, I grew up as a kid listening to over and over. And man, I've been singing these songs since I was a kid. So, obviously most of them are the big hits, Suspicious Minds,
Sure.
Burning Love, we do a lot of that stuff. And then we do some of the big, the big orchestrated stuff like My Way and Bridge Over Troubled Water. And people are like,
love it.
I cannot believe that's the guy from Metal Church and he's killing this song right now.
That's great.
Yeah. And it's just very natural for me to do it. But, I don't know if you saw enough of the show on video, but the idea is that it's not just Elvis stuff. I mean, it is an Elvis show, so we have to do a lot of the Elvis stuff. But about every third song, we put in an 80s song. Yeah. And we change the key or whatever we have to do so I can sing it Elvis style. Yep. I mean, we do like Toto, Hold the Line. We do Runaway by Bon Jovi. We do AC/DC. We do Rick Springfield. I mean, just songs that everybody are like, my God, he's doing this song and it's like Elvis is doing it. Because it's 1985 Elvis. He would have kept doing the same stuff. So he picked songs and he do them his way, and it just
Elvis has got to be looking down on us, extremely happy right now, Steve. You're doing it, man. You're doing justice to the king, man. That's all any of us can ask for, right?
Well, I hope so, man.
Do justice to the king.
I hope so. Actually, I hope he's still alive and doing his own thing and enjoying life. But if he's up there looking down, I certainly hope that he approves of what I'm doing.
And you will not go to this show, and you will not be. There will be no fried peanut butter banana sandwiches. Let's put that disclaimer out. And there will also be. You also do not have a manager that takes 50% of the proceeds of this either, right? So it's not full on Elvis. There's no Tom Parker involved.
No,
or Tom Parker like type characters. We don't want those guys. Keep those guys out of there.
Yeah, there's enough of them running around the music world.
And it's good that Sin Circus has you and not a Tom Parker. That's good, right? We don't want, keep the Tom Parkers of the world away from these kids, right? Jesus Christ.
Yes. Yeah, unless the right guy comes along. I mean, Doc McGee was to come along. He's probably the closest thing to Tom Parker. But he can make things happen. So,
he sure can. Yeah, he sure can. Well, I gotta say, man, you literally might be making a claim right now for the hardest working guy in show business. It's quite the itinerary here, man. You got a lot on your plate, sir. I salute you, man. I mean, is that the key, man? Just happiness is just staying busy for you at this point, huh?
Dude, I just enjoy music, man. I love it. And, unfortunately, Metal Church doesn't play as much as I would like to.
Right.
So it affords me to do other things that I love to do. But music is what I love to do. So, I just, I'm playing with Autograph. I'm playing with Metal Church. I'm playing with the Live 85. I have a side original band called One and Done. I take out and, I just got to go out and I jam with my friends, on jam night sometimes. It's just what I do. It's what I love to do, and I've been able to make a living off of it, since I graduated high school. So I don't know any other way, and I don't want to go dig ditches. I don't want to dig ditches, man.
You're out there living your best life, man. That's all any of us could ask for, right? I mean, shit. I mean, so, I really appreciate you coming on here and doing this, man. It's really been a pleasure getting a chance to chop it up with you here for a little bit, man. Wish you all the best with everything going forward. Obviously, people can find Metal Church out there on the internet and all the streaming platforms. That goes without saying. They've only been a band for 40 fucking years. If you can't find Metal Church, something's fucking wrong with you. You're the problem. Metal Church is out there. Obviously, Autograph, same goes for them. If you don't know who the fuck Autograph is, I don't know how to help you. I mean, and I implore people, go check out Sin Circus. I think people are really going to love what they hear. And how do people find out about the Elvis Alive 85 stuff? Is there a website where they can find out where you're going to be doing this?
Mostly, I have a Live 85 Facebook, so you can check that out. But I'm most active just on my personal Steve Unger page. So, I have more followers there that, pay attention to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I post all my stuff, all upcoming shows and everything. I'm trying to get it out of the Pacific Northwest area. Live 85 does Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana and North Dakota. We've kind of been in that area right there. And it's really tough because obviously the priorities are Metal Church and Autograph. So there's been many times I've had to cancel a Live 85 shows because, I get a phone call from, Autograph. Hey, dude, you available this weekend? We got 2 shows of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, So, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but at the same time, it only makes sense. So it's really tough for me to get the Live 85 show out of the Pacific Northwest because to make it cost effective, you're flying 6 to 8 people and all of our gear so we have to go and we have to do a string of like 2 weeks worth of shows to make it, pan out where it's a profitable experience for all of us. And right now, a 2-week window is unheard of for me right now.
You can't find one. You can't find. But what about recorded music with this band? Like, have you done anything or will you do anything in terms of an album with the Alive 85 stuff?
We have talked about it. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure, if we're going to do that or not. But, I have a recording studio and we could very easily make one. It's just a matter of do we want to and are we going to? That is up in the air right now.
And I implore people, certainly the 26th of May, go out and get Congregation of Annihilation. There's already a single up. I am an Apple Music guy. Already up on the platform, man. Kick ass. New vocalist sounds kick ass. What more would you expect from Metal Church? It's going to kick ass, for fuck's sake. That's what we've come to expect from Metal Church, man. But I appreciate you so much being on here, Steve. This has really been fun talking to you, man. You've been a great guest, man. And certainly lots of shit to talk about always helps, man. So thank you so much, man. And hopefully we can keep in touch. Hopefully we can keep in touch and we can do this again sometime soon.
Cool. Well, Mark, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks so much, Steve. Good talking to you, buddy. All right, later.
Take care, everybody.
All right, later. There he goes, folks. That is Steve Unger. You know him as the longtime bass player for just a little legendary metal band called Metal Church. They've only been around since 1983, for fuck's sake. He's going on a nice 20-year run with them. You also hear he's now joined up playing bass, handling the bass duties for legendary rock band Autograph. He is managing the band that his sons are in, which is called Sin Circus. They are a good young rock and roll band to keep an eye on. You heard that from Rex Ruger first. And, of course, the fun stuff. He's out there doing Elvis Alive 85, which is just a phenomenal take on, as you heard Steve explain, if Elvis hypothetically were alive and pulled into the year 1985. And Steve is actually singing in that band and does a remarkable job. I think the king here would approve. Stamp of approval from, the king. Uh-huh. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Al. I don't know if I do it as good as Steve, but I am a diehard fan too. And certainly if this ever comes, as he said, it's been difficult for him to take it out of the Pacific Northwest. But if it comes out this way to the East Coast, I will be there. And wherever it goes, people, go out and see it because he has a lot of fun with it. And it's not just Elvis tunes, as you said. They splice in some other, classic rock anthems, memorable songs that people will know, performed obviously as Elvis. So thank you so much to Steve Unger, bass player extraordinaire. The day job is Metal Church and Autograph. But hey, he's out there living his best life, man. Managing his kids in a young up-and-coming rock band, out there portraying the king of rock and roll. And he's in two goddamn legendary bands in Metal Church and Autograph. So salute to Steve Unger. He's out there, rock warrior. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed chopping it up with Steve. And I thank him again. And I remind you guys out there to take it easy and keep it sleazy.